Ruth actually be afraid he might harm her? Anxious to be indoors now, she ran to the back door, used by all the servants, but came to a sudden halt outside it. More than ever, she needed to get inside unnoticed and give herself time to calm down and think. She eased the door open carefully. Thankfully, the passage was empty, and she could hear neither voices nor movements. Turning, she shook the worst of the rainwater from her umbrella, then stepped inside, closing the door softly and wiping her feet on the doormat to avoid leaving a trail of wet footprints that would not only signal her return to anyone who saw them, but incur the housekeeper's wrath too. The scullery was just ahead of her. With luck, Luck wasn't on her side. Mrs. Priest bustled into the passage through the door that led to the family's part of the house. Seeing Ruth, she skewered her with a glare. "Don't make puddles on my clean floors, Ruth Turner." For a moment, Ruth felt paralyzed, turned into stone, but she finally found her voice. "No, Mrs. Priest." Not that the housekeeper would be inconvenienced if the floors did get wet, as it was Ruth who'd have to mop them. "And shake that umbrella outside." "I've already—" No, it was wiser to obey than be accused of insolence. Ruth shook her umbrella again, then stifled a groan of dismay as she saw a very tall, very slender figure running over from the carriage house, where the Arleys kept their car. It was Lydia, in filthy men's overalls with a duster around her head. If Mrs. Priest spotted her, she'd know Lydia had been tinkering with the car again and waste no time in reporting her. Mrs. Priest disliked all of them: Ruth, Lydia, Jenny, and Grace, telling them often that none of them could hold a candle to her three nieces. But it was Lydia she disliked most of all. Unsurprisingly, Grace and Jenny regarded the housekeeper as a nuisance they had to tolerate, while Ruth wouldn't say boo to a goose. But Lydia never hid the fact that the dislike was mutual. She had a way of staring at Mrs. Priest through cool grey eyes that brought a hot and bothered look to the older woman's face. Lydia was a terrible housemaid too, and would have been dismissed long ago if Ruth, Jenny, and Grace hadn't covered up for her. How could Ruth save Lydia now? "Terrible night, isn't it, Mrs. Priest?" she yelled. Catching on to the warning, Lydia stopped running and sent Ruth a conspiratorial grin before creeping forward to flatten herself against the wall, out of sight. "I didn't mean you should leave that door open all night," Mrs. Priest complained. Ruth closed it. "May I leave my umbrella in the hearth to dry?" She was already moving into the kitchen, squeezing a final few drips from her umbrella to lure Mrs. Priest in after her. "You're making a mess, Turner." "Am I?" Ruth looked round, pretending to be surprised, and was relieved to see Lydia glide down the passage towards the back stairs. "I'll fetch the mop." Ruth brought it from the scullery, wondering if she might still manage a few minutes alone, as Lydia would assume Mrs. Priest had detained her if she didn't go upstairs immediately. Questions were bound to be asked about Ruth's day, and she needed to be ready with answers if she was to avoid blurting out something she might regret later. She wiped the floor and headed back to the scullery. "Not so fast," Mrs. Priest said. "Madam wants to see you." Ruth stopped in her tracks, then turned, wondering if she was to be questioned about the man she'd seen. But it wasn't a chance encounter on the drive that had put that look of gleeful malice on the housekeeper's face. Ruth was in trouble for something. "Do you know why she wants to see me?" "That's for Madam to explain. She wants to see all of you, Gray, Mallory, Lavenham, and you. Immediately. Best not to keep her waiting." Worried now, Ruth fled the kitchen, dumped the mop, and rushed up to the attic passage where Lydia was waiting. Predictably, Lydia laughed. "That was close." "Hush!" It would be just like the housekeeper to eavesdrop from the bottom of the stairs. Ruth shooed Lydia along the passage to the rooms they shared, Ruth with Grace and Lydia with Jenny. They found Grace and Jenny together, Grace reading and Jenny sitting on Ruth's bed, trimming a cream cloche hat with blue ribbon. There was no time now for Ruth to share her news, even if she could work out what to say. No time to mention the man who'd threatened her, either. "Mrs. Arley wants to see us," Ruth explained. "She wants to see all of us."